Hi BookTube! It's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my July wrap-up. This is going to include, obviously, my weekly wrap-up for week 30, along with my TBR Takedown and 7 in 7 readathon wrap-ups. This month I read a total of 18 books, which I credit to all of the readathons I participated this month. So let's get started. I will leave all the links down below to all of my previous wrap-up videos that include all of these books. I will just show you the covers that I have, pictures for the ones that I had to return back to the library, and give you kind of an estimated star rating. I can't remember what I gave all these books, so let's just get started. The first readathon that took place in July, or actually it was like the end of the readathon, was the readorama. It started at the end of June and kind of went into July, like for a couple days, and so I finished up the readathon, the readorama readathon, in July. So for that one I read 5 books during the readorama, one being The Red Spikes by Margot Lanigan. This is I think it was 11 short stories. She's a very strange writer. I did enjoy most of them. 3 in particular, which again, all of that is in my wrap-up video, and I believe I gave this 3 or 4 stars. I can't remember. The next book that I read was Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. The illustrator, or the guy who, like, you know, did it into the graphic novel form, is Christian Demeter, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. This was the third time going through the story. The first time I watched it on video, the second I actually read the novel, and so this is the third time going through the story, which was the graphic novel form. I absolutely loved it. And then I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by, Lois Stevenson, but also Klimowski and Shebel. I don't know. This one I gave 3 stars to. I also gave the regular original book 3 stars. It is a gothic tale, and so it's very flowery and not very suspenseful, since I already knew kind of what the story was about. So I don't know, it was good but not great. Alright, and then the other 2 books that I read was For Darkness Shows the Stars, which I will leave the picture here, and I gave this one 5 stars. I really liked it. One of these days I will be making a ratings video to share with you guys how I rate my books, but I did give it 5 stars. It took me a day to read. Very fast-paced love story, and I liked it. And then the last book during this readathon was Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman, and I also gave that book 5 stars. It was absolutely amazing. I'm putting it on my top 5 of 2015. I will probably be doing 15 out of 2015, but in the top 5 for this year was definitely Challenger Deep. I really enjoyed it, and it's a mental illness contemporary, which was just super interesting and very touching. So those are the 5 books that I read during the readorama, which was the first week of July. The next thing I read was for the year-a-thon readathon in July, and the theme was mystery novels. I did read one of the short stories from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and that was the Red-Headed League, which I gave, I think, 3 or 4 stars to. It was it was an interesting short story. My kids enjoyed it, and that was it. I didn't finish another mystery novel during that time because I was working on Cemetery Boys, which was a mystery, and it took me a really long time to finish. Alright, so for the next week I did the cramathon, and during the cramathon I read a total of 3 books, which was great. The first one that I read, I'll leave a picture here, and that was a short story or a novella and it was Chimera, book 1, which is a middle grade story about a boy who gets lost in the unforgotten world of Chimera. And very strange, but I really liked it. It kind of reminded me of Toy Story a little bit, or Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. But yeah, I gave that one, I believe, 3 or 4 stars. And then I read Sandman Volume 1, and this is by, why can't I think of his name? Neil Gaiman and a whole bunch of other people. I really enjoyed this graphic novel. I do have Volume 2, which I can't wait to get to. This was very interesting, and it's about a man who is kidnapped. He is the ruler of Dreamland, and so he's, you know, captured for 70 years, and what happens when he gets out of being in prison. Alright, and then the next book that I read was Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. This is 11. I think the other one was only 10. This was 11 short stories that all intertwined, which I really, really enjoyed. So much so that I went and bought her other 2 books. I did give this 4 stars. I loved it. Very creepy and strange. Alright, and then the next book that I read was The Island of Excess Love by Francesca Lia Block. This is the sequel to Love in the Time of Global Warming, and this is a Odyssey retelling with a female protagonist and a little bit of LGBT, and it wasn't as good as the first one, which makes me sad because I really love the cover, and these were cover buys, but I wish it was a little bit different. This was a lot more depressing than the first book. And then lastly, during the cramathon, I read Coma by Alex Garland. I really enjoyed this. It's about a man who goes into a coma, and like his whole, the whole story is just about him inside of his head during the coma trying to figure out how to wake up. Really, really good. And because of this book, I went and bought The Beach by Alex Garland, which I am reading right now. And hopefully soon I will be buying the 28 Days later, or just 28 Days. I don't know how to say it. But yeah, he's a really good writer. I like it. It's very strange. And I enjoyed this one. I believe I gave this 4 stars. Alright, so between the cramathon and the TBR Takedown, there was a week where I actually had no readathons going on, and I read a total of 5 books, which is very exciting. So the first one being The Cemetery Boys, which I already took back to the library. Here's a picture. I kind of despised this book. I think I gave it 2 stars. It's about an extremely whiny boy who moves to a small town, and the town is supposed to have some kind of paranormal creature that is supposed to like kill or eat or cause trouble to the town if you don't give a sacrifice, and it ends up being really, really lame. I mean, the premise was so interesting, and it just failed miserably. I despised it. The next book that I read was Between the Spark and the Burn. I didn't like this one either. This is by April Genevieve Chulk. This is the sequel to Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, which I absolutely loved. The sequel was just boring, and I didn't like the characters as much in this book. It just wasn't as good, and I hated Brody from the first book, and it was mostly about trying to find him in this book, and so, ugh, blah, blah, blah. I think I gave this 3 stars. Alright, next I read The Beast Keeper, which was a middle grade novel. I will leave the picture here. I think it's Kat Hellison is the author of that book. I never talked about this in my weekly wrap-up. I don't know why. I missed it because I returned it to the library and then forgot. But this was a really good story. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but not so much as like a Beauty and the Beast, like a love story retelling. There is a beast and there is kind of like a beauty. It's very, I don't know, it was very, you know, fairy tale-y and I absolutely loved it. I believe I gave it 4 stars. I would definitely check it out. It is a pretty short read, and it's just about a girl who finds out that she's cursed. Her family's cursed. If you ever fall in love, you turn into a beast. So that's the thing. Like, so she doesn't want to fall in love, or she'll be cursed, but then she doesn't know how to find a way around the curse, and she gets sent to her grandmother's house. And her grandmother is a witch, and so she has to deal with that, and her grandma's not very nice. Like I said, very, very good. I liked the beast aspect. I liked the witches. I liked everything that has to do with the story. 4 stars. Definitely check it out. And then I read The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson. This is the 3rd, and no, it's not the final book. There's a 4th book coming. This is the 3rd book in the Shades of London series, and this is about a girl, what's her name? Rory? Yeah. This is about a girl named Rory who gets mixed up with a bunch of ghost hunters, and it's just a paranormal mystery. I really enjoyed it for the most part. I was kind of sad that it didn't end. Like, I was hoping it was going to be done, but there is a 4th book, and then the ending leaves you on a cliffhanger about the Shadow Cabinet, which is a secret society that does other stuff with the ghost hunters, but it's their own branch, and who knows what they do there. And yeah, very interesting. I love learning about London and all that jazz, and there's ghosts, and I love all that. So I do recommend checking out this series if you have not. Maureen Johnson is a very good writer. All right, and then the last book that I read during that week is Mosquitoland by David Arnold. This was an amazing 5-star read for me. I absolutely enjoyed it, and it's about a girl named Mary Iris Maloney, who takes a trip from Mississippi, which she calls Mosquitoland, up to Ohio, I think, and her journey on this Greyhound bus and the people that she meets. It was just really, really good. I appreciated all of the honest portrayals of all the characters. Really enjoyed it. All of the links for the videos are down below. Alright, and then we get to the final week, week 30, and that was last week where they had the TBR Takedown and the 7 and 7. Now, the TBR Takedown had 5 challenges on them. I don't know if I wrote them down. Did I? Yes, I did. Okay, so the first challenge that I finished was the first book in a series. So I read The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. Book 4 stars. It's about a girl named Avery West who, for the last 16 years of her life, she's been on the run, but she doesn't know that she's on the run. And she just moves around a lot. Her mom, you know, has a job that she has to constantly go to different states. And Avery's lonely because she's an only child. She doesn't have any family. And then one day she meets a boy who changes her world. And, I mean, isn't that what usually happens in YA? She meets a boy, falls in love. There is insta-love. There's kind of like a love triangle towards the end. And, I mean, the main part that I loved so much about this book was like the secret society and the 2 divisions of the secret societies and the little like scavenger hunt that she has to go on, the chase. I mean, there was like 2 really creepy adrenaline pumping like fight scenes in this book that I was really scared for Avery. I thought she was gonna die. But she's also kind of like huffy. She's like, well, I can do this all myself, and she really can't. And she doesn't know who to trust or who to believe. And overall, it was a fun YA read. Lots of cliche moments, and but I'm looking forward to the second book. All right, and then for challenge 2, it was to read a sequel, which I read Charmed by Michelle Kreis or Kreis. I just finished this book last night, and I know that it wasn't technically the TBR Takedown anymore, but it was still part of the 7 and 7. And for that readathon, you just had to read 7 books in 7 days. So I'm just gonna I'm putting it together. I don't care. So yeah, this book, I absolutely loved. Text, I gave it 5 stars last year when I read it. It was fast-paced, it was interesting, it was about a witch who doesn't know she's a witch. And then in this book, the main character, her name's Indigo, she's just so bitchy. Like, I couldn't stand her character in this one. She's really mean, she's manipulative, she's whiny, she's stubborn. She does that trope where she goes off and tries to do things on her own and then gets like in big trouble because of it. And then she continues to do stupid things, which drove me crazy. And then, what else did I like? There's a lot of phrases that just, it's just got on my nerves. Like when she said, I had a pang of guilt. No, you didn't. If you had a pang of guilt, you would have stopped the first time. You can't say, I had a pang of guilt after the 5th, 6th time of doing the same thing. You're crying wolf. You don't care. You're rude. And, I mean, she's just so one-track mind on her best friend that's lost. And I can understand that. You lose a best friend. But it's not like the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, more people can help out, or you can do it, you know, I don't know. She just stopped her entire life to like help her friend, which drove me crazy. And then there's insta-love from the last book, which goes really crazy in this one. And then there's like a small patch of insta-love in the middle of the book, and she's only known the guy like for 2 days. And the ending was just, there's a fight scene at the end that was so anticlimactic, and it drove me crazy. And there's a lot of like unanswered questions, and I'm pretty sure this is the last book of the series, so it's a duology, just a lot of unanswered questions. I could go on. I could go on. This book was just a disappointment to me. I was having, you know, sequel syndrome. Just sad. I didn't like it. I feel bad because I really enjoyed the first book, and I thought it was going to be awesome, and it wasn't, which infuriates me. Alright, and then the third challenge was to read the oldest book on your shelf or on your TBR, or the first book, you know, it's just a very old book. I picked The Gates by John Connolly. This is what took me so long to read, and the reason why I didn't get very many books read during the TBR Takedown, because I started with this book, and this is a middle grade book, but it's kind of slow. It was really fun to read. I did give it 4 stars, but it took a really long time for me to get into it for some reason, and I don't know why, because I really did enjoy it. It was kind of reminiscent of Lemony Snicket, where the narrator is telling you a story and then stops telling you the story to give you more information, or talks to the reader. And also, let me show you, these footnotes down here are, they go along with the text that's inside, which I really enjoyed, and it's like, it'll give you more information on what that word is, or something really funny as an answer. I enjoyed it. The main character, Samuel Johnson, he finds out that his neighbor is now a demon, and he's trying to keep this demon from opening the gates of hell. So the whole time was, I mean, it was really fun to read, and I was really engaged, but at the same time it was really slow, and so I would put it down and then not want to pick it back up because it didn't like excite me. But then when I was reading it, I was really enjoying what I was reading. So I am definitely looking forward to picking up book 2. I do have the entire trilogy, and yeah, so I would definitely check this out if you like middle grade and you like demons and very sciencey stuff. It was really, it talked about CERN, like the black matter place in, I think in Switzerland? I can't remember where it's at, but it was very fascinating, and I think that's what got me at the beginning, why it was so slow, because it was super sciencey, but not the kind of sciencey that I like. I don't know. There are different departments in science, and this one just wasn't grabbing my attention right off the bat, so I was like, oh, how is a middle grader going to read this book? It's kind of too much, but then it got better when it stopped talking about all the black matter and wormholes and other dimensions. So yeah, I liked that one. Alright, and then it was to, the fourth challenge was to read a book out of your comfort zone. And I read Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. I really enjoyed this book. I believe I gave it a 4.5 stars. This book is very cool in the way it's written, and I really do love the headings. They look like paper, like cardstock on strings. I really like that. And then it's also broken up into kind of like a script for like a theater production or a movie production. Everybody has a script, and so it was presented in that fashion. So while the main character, what's his name? Greg. While Greg talks about his life with his friend Earl and the dying girl, Greg writes this story to talk about his relationship with the dying girl. And how do I explain this book? It wasn't like A Fault in Our Stars at all. There wasn't like some lovey-dovey romance in it. It was like an extremely realistic take on, you know, a boy who's losing a friend who's not like a best friend. It's like more of like a childhood friend, and his like ideas, because he's 16. He's not, when you're young, and even when you're a little bit older, you know, you don't want to face death. And so it's very abstract to him. And then when she is dying, he realizes, oh God, this isn't fake. Like, she's actually dying. Like, she won't be here anymore. And then he like feels like all these different emotions, and it was just really a really engaging read. He's very funny. I laughed out loud a lot during this book. Him and Earl are like the typical disgusting teenagers that talk, you know, gross and about girls, and it's funny. It kind of reminded me of Grasshopper Jungle in the way the boys were talking. But yeah, I really liked it, and I can't wait to watch the movie, and I'm glad I finally picked it up. This has been on my shelf for about a year, and so yes, I enjoyed it. All right, and then the last challenge was to read a book from your most recent haul, and that was The Beach by Alex Garland, but I never finished reading it because I thought it would be as quick as The Coma, but it's not. It's really detailed and very strange, and there's like 500 pages in it, so I'm still halfway through. I think I'm on page like 145 or something out of almost 500. So that was all 18 books that I read during July. Hopefully you don't mind this being such an extremely long video. I'll try to cut it down during editing. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys all had fun during all of the readathons that took place in July. And it's booktubeathon right now, and so I'm going to continue reading the books that I've started. So yes, have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!